Hello, my dear students. As you can see, I'm very, very cold here in Adelaide, and I hope you're a little bit warmer in Frankfurt. This week, we have video number 8. I would like you to go to Moodle, please, and start with the first exercise, which is the culture iceberg. Just take the sheet, get together maybe in pairs or if you want in your group, and discuss it. So the culture iceberg, the first exercise, is really a representation of what it means um, to see culture as something divided into visible parts and the parts that are not so visible. What does this mean? When you travel, for instance, or you meet people from a different culture, there are things like food or language and maybe sometimes the way we dress, but that's not really the case anymore. We're pretty much all the same these days, but there are things that are obvious: architecture, ways of driving, traffic, etc., is above the surface of the iceberg. Yeah, you imagine an iceberg, there's a part that you see and there's a lot of part that you don't see, unfortunately. So then as you go deeper, you can realize that some of the norms or perspectives, some values, it could be belief systems, religions, assumptions, they might not be so obvious. It might come out in literature, it might come out in art or the type of music, but there are aspects of culture that are beneath the surface. They're not immediately apparent. I would like you to get together, look at the illustration, discuss what you think, and the list is not it's not a complete list. So you might come up with other things, for instance, music, artistic endeavors, etc. And discuss what do you, in your experience, what do you think is above the surface, so it's visible, and what is beneath the surface. You can also watch the video about the culture iceberg either at home or if you have time, do it in your group, please. You might get many more ideas about what we mean actually by the visible and not so easily detectable aspects of culture. Then I would like you to watch together, if you have time, a TED Talk. And this is a TED Talk by Christine Sun Kim. She was born deaf and she was taught to think that sound was not part of her life because sound is what hearing people have access to. Then she discovered she uses American Sign Language, and I want you to know there are differences in the different sign languages. So the British Sign Language is not the same as Auslan, which is the Australian Sign Language, which is not the same as ASL, which is the American Sign Language. So even within the English-speaking countries, there are differences. But if you now know somebody who is part of the deaf community and they have German as their native language, they would have German Sign Language. In a way, it's a little bit unfortunate, I think, that even a British person and an Australian person might not understand each other when they sign, but that's how it is. It's the same as accents and languages. So please have a listen because I think it is important. We need to understand people who use language in a different way. They don't have access to sound coming through the ears as we do. And it's a very endearing talk that she gives. It will really open your eyes and ears to another aspect of communication, which is visual language. So have a listen to her talk if you can, If you have time, listen to it in your group. If not, please make it part of your exercise at home to become familiar with sign language and the deaf community and what it means to have a different way of communicating. I, I have put in a lot into this week, but really, I don't know whether you have time or not in your meeting. If you do, please do it. If you don't have time, then just as you cook your dinner, or you get your child ready for school, or you're riding your bicycle, or whatever, maybe you can listen to some of these things as you do other activities. That's why I like TED Talks, actually. I like TED Talks and podcasts, etc., because I can do other things at the same time, which you can't do when you're reading a book. You have to concentrate on that one task, and I'm always multitasking. So if you have time, watch these talks together. There is something on Moodle about cultural differences in negotiations. So we're moving from the more personal type of communication into business communication now. Start with a brainstorm, please, in your group. Think about situations where you negotiated with a member of another culture or in another culture. I'm thinking, for instance, when I love to travel to Turkey and also Middle Eastern countries, and at times I have bought things there. I didn't realize in the beginning that you need to bargain and discuss and have a tea with it and make it a ritual because that's part of the culture. So at some point, I remember a long time ago, now of course I'm aware, but long time ago, I decided to buy a little carpet, and the carpet seller said, this is the price. And I said, okay, here it is. And then he said, no, 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 you can't just buy it. You need to bargain. And I said, well, but I'm happy to pay the price that you said. No, 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 no. So the negotiation, the bargaining, the backwards and forwards and having a joke and, oh no, I have to feed 7 kids, whatever, it's all part of the drama. It's all part of the game. And at this stage, the carpet seller didn't want to just take my money. So this is an example of different styles in business negotiations. Now we're talking, of course, on a very different level. If you are in an international company and you need to make a deal with a partner in another country, you need to know the negotiation style, which is part of the communication style. Every culture has a different style in communication. What are some of the differences? So I want you to brainstorm it, but just to give you a quick idea, some people, some cultures have a very direct and explicit form of communication, while others are more indirect or implicit. If you don't know this and you impose your style onto the other partners, then there might be huge misunderstandings. Some cultures are competitive and it is about the winner takes it all. There's only one winner, right? And it's my way or the highway. Mm. Some cultures are more cooperative and they want a consensus. That means that in some negotiations, there's only one person that makes the decision. So the whole decision making process is determined by the cultural background. You might have somebody with just authority, and this person makes the decision for the whole team. Or you might have the stakeholders all coming together, discussing it, and then it is the team that makes the decision in a democratic way. Again, you need to know if you are negotiating with members of other cultures, do you need to address just the one person who is at the top of the pyramid, or will it be convincing the whole team and negotiating with the whole team? You may know that different cultures have a different idea about time and deadlines. Some cultures think it's very important to be punctual, to be on time, to be very strict about schedules. Other cultures, they have an approach to time that is extremely flexible. It's sort of like a rubber band. And it doesn't matter if it takes a long time, it can be stretched. And so this whole understanding of time is also important. I've been in negotiations with people from the United Arab Emirates, which is sort of like, well, I wouldn't say it's typical for Arab culture, but because it's become much more westernized now, but there is still that sort of Arab influence there. And they take their time, the chai wallah comes and gives you the chai, and then you first have a cup of tea, and then please have something to eat, and then they take you out to a restaurant. And what they're trying to suss out in their negotiations is, can you be trusted? So it's first, business is off the charts. So it's first about, can we actually trust you? Can we build a relationship? And if we can, well, then of course we can do business together. But if you come from a culture, Australia is one of them, where you want to get down to business immediately, they don't like that, right? So you need to understand, is time strict or is time flexible? And do you need to first build a relationship, or is it just matter of fact about the business idea? Some cultures also have a willingness to take risks, and some cultures do not like risks, and they are more cautious, more conservative to the negotiation. So again, this attitude towards risk, the risk tolerance, can vary a lot. Of course, then we talk about negotiations that are linked to a certain protocol, a certain norm. There are etiquettes. There are ways you need to greet somebody that you have a negotiation with, gestures, the more Asian type of first exchanging business cards, and you look at the business card and you see who is higher and who is lower in the hierarchy. So all of these etiquettes, of course, we need to be familiar with before we can enter into negotiation. There are also different ways to deal with conflict. Some cultures, if there is a difference in opinion, value the direct confrontation and open expression, while other cultures, for them, it's more important to have harmony and to avoid the conflict. You need to know if somebody in a certain culture says yes because they agree with you, or they say yes because they don't want to have a conflict and they prefer harmony. A yes is not a yes, and a no is not a no. You need to understand what's the culture background and what is their goal. Yeah. And of course, all of this is based on understanding how people view the relationship. So if you, I remember watching a lot of videos about very humorous, funny incidences where people misunderstood each other in business negotiations. And for instance, if you go out you go to China, you go to a more Asian country, and the first thing that happens is you get taken out to a restaurant. Now, the minute you eat everything that they give you, they bring you another plate and they bring you more food, and you don't understand that they think, well, you haven't had enough, and so you need to be fed more. If you are part of that culture, you leave something on the plate, which means you're full, you don't need to eat more. All of these little things, they can significantly influence the negotiation process and also the outcome. Therefore, to be aware of the cross-cultural negotiations means that you're sensitive, you're aware of it, you adapt to it, and you also are willing and able to let go of your own ways of negotiating. You really tune in. Like, I think the most important capacity is to just tune in, signal, I am willing to meet you where you are. I understand that this negotiation process is culturally defined, and therefore I am willing to meet you at least halfway, maybe more, if I want to have a beneficial outcome. So these two things belong together: the cultural iceberg and belonging to a particular culture, i.e., in this instance of the lady who speaks sign language, belonging to the deaf culture. And moving on to the business negotiations, this is again a subtopic of cultural awareness. What I would like you to do if you have time in your group, if not, think about it while you're taking the train home or while you're riding your bicycle or while you're walking your dog or whatever you're doing. Think about it. What culture do you belong to? And I mean not just national culture, because we are all a cultural mosaic. Yeah, it's like a little mosaic with little pieces and it all forms together into a complete whole. You might belong to a nationality, you might belong to, um, let's say, a musical subculture. Maybe you're a fan of heavy metal, or you listen to, I don't know, ABBA. I heard that they were in London the other day. Or so you belong to a certain subculture as far as your music taste is concerned. You might also belong to a certain subculture because you have certain beliefs and values that define you. You might identify as one thing or the other, and therefore that is part of your identity and your subculture. You might be a lover of Spanish acoustic guitar, and you regularly meet with people who play together. You might be engaged in sports, and every sport, in a way, is part of a subculture. If you are a soccer player, you belong to a different group than if you're a tennis player or a professional swimmer. So think about all the different subcultures, cultures, all your beliefs, everything that's in the iceberg. So once you've done that exercise about the iceberg, the visible parts of your culture belonging and the more hidden parts of your cultural belongings, become aware of it, please. And maybe just take note to become clear about what is your particular constellation, what makes you you and unique. Because if then one, let's say this is one mosaic, and this one mosaic is composed of all these different cultures and subcultures, is like each person is basically a cultural iceberg. And this person now meets another person who is another constellation of all these different aspects. Where could there be conflicts? Where could there be similarities and agreements, etc.? The more we are aware of who we are and all the different aspects that make us us and unique, the easier it is to value somebody else too and to see their uniqueness and appreciate them for who they are. So that would be my invitation to you today to become aware of the cultural iceberg, listen to the Christina who does our American Sign Language, and just become aware of her needs and her difficulties, her challenges, and what does it mean to belong to a culture where sound is so important. Have a little talk about personal experiences with negotiations in different cultures, and then think about what sort of cultural iceberg are you, what is obvious, and what is maybe not so obvious in who you are. That's all for now. And I thank you for having explained to me your 3-minute presentations. I get the impression that everybody got valuable feedback for their 3-minute speeches. And I will see in the end when you do your final presentations whether all of these things that have been given as hints have been integrated and also have become part of your presentation skills. I'm going to make myself a nice hot cup of tea now, or maybe hot chocolate even. And I hope you're well over there in Frankfurt. Don't forget to upload your meeting minutes, please. I always look forward to reading them. And I send you my love from a very cold, wintry day in Adelaide. Bye for now. Take good care. Take good care of each other too. Bye.